Get rolling. All right. Tonight at the living room, Healthy Living Inspirations, where we're learning how to live healthy, even though we're living in a toxic world. Tonight is our Choose It to Lose It. No better way than to lose what we don't want in 2023 and choose what we do want in 2023, because the choices we make today are going to determine the path we take tomorrow and the results. And so we have with us Tony Robertson from Arizona. Tony is an awesome, incredible man of God. He's a father. He's a grandiose husband. He's a friend. He's a certified nutritionist. He's been working with the Neolife Nutritionals for over 20 plus years. He has a engineer mind, so he wants to figure out the who, what, when, where, and especially the how. And so I just love it. Feel free to ask questions after, and let's just gather around. Let's get healthy together. Tonight's title is Carbs, Are They Really Essential? So go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Ms. LaVaughn. Awesome introduction. And it's good to see some familiar faces on the screen here, Mr. David. It's good to see you there. It looks like you're cold up there in Kingman, my man. Kind of like in Phoenix. It's chilly. It's a whopping, I think, 63 degrees today. It's cold. Wow. But you know what? It is what it is. I'm not going to argue with. I don't mind a bit of cool compared to our hot summers. So yeah, Ms. Pat Elmott, you are looking stunning as per usual. It's good to see you. I hope all is going well with your eating plan on that side. Please say yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I know Christmas and the New Year, the holiday season, it's always a challenge for everybody. I don't care who you are, how disciplined you are. You're going to eat something that is not part of the regular diet plan. But you know what? I don't care, because we know what we need to do. And then when the holiday is over, we just get back on track and we do our thing. All right. That's how easy it should be. Now, I know for some people, it is a challenge. A lot of people have mental challenges, psychological challenges when it comes to food and getting back on track or not caring what they eat. And I say that because a friend of ours, so let me backtrack just a little bit. 7 years ago, I jumped onto a ketogenic diet, and I've lived like that for the last 7 years. And a lot of our friends in the South African group that we have here noticed I lost a lot of weight in the space of 6 months. And they all want to know what I do. So I told them, and they're all like, but that can't be. You can't eat like that. You can't not eat vegetables, etc., blah, blah, blah. It's funny. They ask, what did you do? You look so good. And you tell them what you did, and they say no. It's like, come on. But anyways, so one friend of mine, maybe a year ago or so, was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and he panicked. He got a fright, and so he went lots of reading up, and I didn't know this, but when I did see him, I noticed this dude lost a lot of weight, and I said, dude, you're looking good. What happened? He said, oh, I must admit, I was diagnosed with diabetes a few months back. So I started watching Dr. Berg and Dr. Ken Perry, and I'm thinking, dude, these are the people I told you about 7 years ago. But anyway, and he cut out all his carbs, and he did this, increased his fats and his proteins. He's no longer diabetic. He didn't get onto medication. He's lost, I don't know, 50 pounds or something. And I thought, well, good. I'm glad that happened. I'm glad it happened. But it's just funny how people don't take your advice up front, And so anyway, so maybe 2 months ago, we were at a gathering somewhere, and the one lady, I said to Yvette, this lady's lost weight. But she's one of those kind of ladies. You can't go say, man, Susie, you're looking good. You lost a few pounds, because it's just not the right thing to say. So anyway, I said nothing. And then we saw some pictures from Christmas, and I said to Yvette, she's doing something because she's looking a lot thinner. Anyway, 2 days ago, Yvette's on the phone with her. Turns out she decided she's tired of looking the way she is, and she's tired of feeling the way she does. So she started cutting out a lot of foods and doing a keto style diet. And again, it's like, I told you this 7 years ago. But here's the thing, and it takes me a while. All right, I said to it, I'm slow, but you know what? I'm worth waiting on. So you folks here, just sit tight, okay? We'll get there eventually. Something that I have learned is, and I kind of knew this, but it's just frustrating when you see something that works so well, but nobody else wants to jump on board with you. It's like when I slap them upside the head and say, just get over it, get on with the program, and but there's a time in everybody's life when they have to decide for themselves, it's time to do something different. Up until that point, you cannot really help them. You can give advice, you can tell them what you've done, but until they decide, I'm going to do something, nothing's going to happen. So I say all that just to say, be patient with your friends, your family, all right? Live the right lifestyle. They'll see that it's lasting. They'll see that you look good, you feel good. They're going to want to do what you're doing. They're going to ask you questions up front. They're not going to do what you're doing, but there'll be a time when they're ready to do it. And then you're going to be there to say, what? I told you so. No. You're going to be there to say, I'm here to help. Just here's my number. If you need anything, give me a call. All right. Oh man, there's so many people I wish I could just say, yeah, but I told you. You should have signed up as a distributor 10 years ago. You could have been wealthy now, but no, you didn't. No, we cannot do that. All right. We're there for when they're ready. That's all. So that's our job. That's our role. All right. So for those that are fairly new on the call, this Thursday night call that I do with Levon's group, we kind of go off the beaten path a little bit. All right. Our goal here is to find a way for people to lose weight, give advice that we've found that actually works. It might not be mainstream advice, but it's stuff that in my life has worked. So I'd like to share it. All right. And I know there's other people on the call in Florida, especially, there's a lot of folks there that have the same sort of testimony. So we just want to share with you, and I like to share information that I find. All right. I know people don't always want to know stuff, but hey, I'm just going to spit it out there anyway. We were at a New Year's Eve get together. We went to the Phoenix Symphony, and believe it or not, I sat through an hour and a half of violins and singing, and I didn't fall asleep. I made it. And I think the only reason I made it is because after 45 minutes, they had an intermission. I could run outside, get something to drink, and go back for the other 45 minutes. I can do 45-minute bursts of symphony. I'm good. But anyway, went back to somebody's house afterwards, and they had a DJ there, and they had a snow machine. We had snow in Phoenix on New Year's Eve, just in their backyard. But anyways, we get to sit around in the lounge, just at like 2 o'clock in the morning, just talking all sorts of nonsense and joking. And somebody was talking about the ball drop in New York, that the ball drops at midnight. And I said, you know what the story about that is? And they said, no. So I told them the history of where that came from. And the one lady's like, Tony, how do you know all this stuff? And Yvette just says, Tony's a wealth of information. He's going to remember something. He'll read something and he'll remember it, and he's going to tell everybody about it. All right. What they do with it, I don't really care. But I just like to share. Sometimes it's useless bits of information. All right. It's not going to change your life in any way. But hey, at least you learn something for the day. All right. So I say all that because this particular Thursday is where we go, like I said, off the beaten path, and we talk about stuff that I've learned that hopefully can make a difference in your life. All right. So if you have any questions, jot them down. If it's something that can't wait to the end, if it needs clarification on a certain point, jump in. All right. Interrupt me, I don't mind. I have no problem answering a question on the spot if I need to. Okay, so the question that tonight's title, are carbohydrates essential? I guess you have to define the word essential. All right. When it comes to food, we have macronutrients Macro is the bigger ones. Those are your proteins, your fats, and your carbohydrates. There's 3 macronutrients. Then you also have micronutrients. Those are all your vitamins and your minerals, your A's and your B's, C, D, your E's, your zincs, your salmon oils, all of those, and your minerals, your magnesiums, the zincs, the calciums, all that kind of stuff. All right, so macro versus micro. So in terms of, let's take protein, for example. We know with our protein shake, we have all 22 amino acids in the protein shake. Now, of those 22 amino acids, there's 9 essential ones. So when it comes to, in dietary terms, essential means your body cannot make it. You have to get it out of your food. All right. The others your body can make, the other stuff. But essential things your body cannot make. So it's got to be on your plate, all right, or in your shaker. So when it comes to macronutrients, there's 3, like I said, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. So if you don't mind, Levon, I do believe I can share my screen here. I want to pull up an emergency PowerPoint that I put together this afternoon, or this morning at least.
Emergency.
So just let me see slideshow. Let's see if this is going to work. All right, give me a thumbs up there, David, if you can see everything on the screen. All right. So carbohydrates, essential or not? Let's have a look here. All right. Now this thing of mine is in the way. Whoops, sorry, wrong button. I'm learning. I don't know how to hide this bar of mine here. Give me just a second. There we go. Okay, so let's figure out quickly what are carbohydrates. All right, we hear about it all the time. You know, you got to eat your carbs, you got to eat your fats, proteins, and other combinations. So essentially, carbohydrates are macronutrients that are essential to living. Now, everything on this planet uses glucose in one form or another, and glucose is the end product of a carbohydrate breakdown. Okay, so you'll eat whatever, potato, it's a starchy thing, your body breaks it down into glucose, it feeds you, it feeds the cells, etc. Okay, excuse me. The third point there, all carbohydrates are made up of units of sugar. That's a very important point to remember. All carbohydrates are made up of little units of sugar. And we'll go through the different types of sugars here in a bit. So there's 2 types of sugars. There's simple sugars, which are monosaccharides and disaccharides. You might have heard of those in your life. And then there's the complex ones. Those are the polysaccharides. Now, mono means 1, di means 2, and poly means lots. Okay, so we're talking single sugar, double sugar, mini sugar. All right. And examples of complex carbohydrates are starch. And other ones are glycogen and then cellulose. And cellulose essentially is plant fiber. So let's have a look at this. Now, this is what is fiber, but I want to break this down just a little bit. This is where I'm going to talk about the sugars. So there's 3 types of single sugars. And you've heard of glucose, you've heard of fructose, which is in fruit. And then there's another one, galactose. Those are your 3 different types of sugars that you get. All right. Then there's the disaccharides, which is the 2 sugars. And they're a combination of 2 of the 3 above. So sucrose, which is table sugar essentially, is a combination of glucose and fructose. Now, glucose on its own, if you taste glucose, it's disgusting. It tastes really, really bad. Mm-hmm. Fructose, on the other hand, is super sweet. So if you combine those 2, you get table sugar, which is a happy medium. Lactose is, again, it's a combination of glucose and galactose. Now, lactose you find in milk for people that are lactose intolerant. They cannot handle that combination of sugars. And then you get maltose, which is 2 glucose molecules. All right. All with me so far? And we don't need too much detail. I just want you to see that single sugars, the monosaccharides and the disaccharides, that's what they look like. And then you get the polysaccharides. And the polysaccharides, you get different types. You get digestible. Now, polysaccharides are many sugars. All right. And in the body, the human body, you can see that little man on the left there. Those polysaccharides are called glycogen. And in the vegetable world, it's called starch. And hence the potato. All right. Now, you also get in the many sugars, you get indigestible. And those you break up into soluble, which you get like from beans and things. And then the insoluble ones are the ones that go straight down the toilet. They do not break down into nothing. All right. So that just gives you an idea then of the different types of sugars. All right. So we've heard carbohydrates essential to human life. Now it says that carbohydrates are the most preferred source of energy. That's debatable, and we can disagree on that. All right, and I have no problem with that. But as we go through this, hopefully we can figure something out. So point number 2, when you don't ingest enough carbohydrates, your blood sugar level may drop, which is likely to result in hypoglycemia. So this is what. Okay, let me explain this real quickly. All this information I'm giving you here on carbohydrate definition and carbohydrate deficiencies, all of this information, I scoured the interweb through the day today. And I'll tell you what, to find a source, a reliable source, as in studies and universities and all that, was a challenge. All this information I found, I was able to find from educational sources, kind of like Khan Academy, where they teach math and biology, other colleges and schools that have online school programs for high school students. And so all of this information comes out of the education system. It doesn't come out of the research part of the world, all right? So if you follow what I'm saying, this is what everybody is being taught in schools and colleges and nutritional courses. Okay. So they say if you don't eat enough carbs, your blood sugar level may drop and likely to result in hypoglycemia. And hypoglycemia is very low blood sugar levels. And you can pass out. You can actually die if it gets to that point. All right. They're also saying if you're carbohydrate deficient, then your body starts to burn fat for energy. So the question comes up straight away, what's wrong with that? Now, we're not going to discuss that right now, but what's wrong with your body burning fat, especially if you've got some extra, all right? And they reckon that it results in ketosis, and they're not happy with your body being in ketosis. So we have to avoid that. Some of the other carbohydrate deficiency symptoms are headache and weakness, and can't concentrate properly, you're tired, and nauseous, and your breath stinks, constipation. They reckon all of those are symptoms of a carbohydrate deficient diet. And they also say you can have deficiencies in things like vitamin B12, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, all of those sort of things. All right. In other words, what they're saying is if you don't eat carbs, you've got a problem, because that's where you're going to get all those vitamins. Now, the very first one there, vitamin B12. I want you folks to understand something. The only place you can get vitamin B12 in nature is in meat. You do not find B12 in a plant source. So if you're getting carbohydrates that have vitamin B12, it means they sprayed vitamin B12 onto that grain or whatever. So you have a fortified grain. So if you're eating Kellogg's cereal, for example, that says fortified with vitamin B12, they've taken a crappy B12 from somewhere and they sprayed it on there. The only place you get vitamin B12 naturally in nature is in meat. And that's why if people go on a vegan diet, they end up B12 deficient, and they can go for 4, 5, 6 years with a B12 deficiency. But after that, problems start to set in. All right. So if you have friends that are vegan, help them understand that. That's all. And if you are then carbohydrate deficient, your body burns fat, leading to ketosis, which may be harmful. Now, the only time ketosis is harmful is if you're a type 1 diabetic and you don't take your insulin, and then you have ketones and issues, ketoacidosis, all that kind of stuff. But if you're doing a regular type of diet or keto style diet, you don't have to worry about that at all. So those are some of the ideas out there, some of the myths, if you will. This is what's being taught in the schools and in the colleges, that carbohydrates are essential. Okay. Let's see what's on the next slide here. So this was a study that was done. And so this was from a real study. All right, one of those randomized controlled trials, all those kind of things. And this is what they have found. The lower limit of dietary carbohydrate compatible with life apparently is 0. In other words, carbohydrates are non-essential to human life. So remember our 3 macronutrients we spoke about: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are non-essential. Now, a non-essential nutrient means your body can make that. But protein and fat are essential. Your body cannot make protein. If you on a vegan diet and you're just eating plants, for example, leaves, salads, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, your body can't make protein. There's no way on God's green earth it's going to manufacture protein. End of story. And if you're eating just leaves and salads and that kind of stuff, there's no way your body is going to manufacture fat. It just won't. All right. You need to eat proteins and you need to eat fats. You don't have a choice. If you want to live, you have to eat those two. But you do not have to eat carbohydrates. If you never eat carbohydrates again in your life, you'll be just fine. All right. I hope that point sinks in. So I'm going to bounce around a little bit between some of these slides. I'm not going to bounce back and forth between the slides. When the PowerPoint's over, we'll bounce back and forth between the information. Okay. Where was I? So carbohydrates are not essential. The essential nutrients, a vitamin, mineral, fatty acid, or amino acid required for normal body function that either cannot be synthesized by the body at all or cannot be synthesized in amounts adequate for good health, and therefore must be obtained from a dietary source. So other food components such as dietary fiber, while not essential, are considered to be nutrients. So carbohydrates, remember we spoke about the polysaccharides, which is a many sugar component. Fiber is a polysaccharide, which means you don't really need the fiber. So I'm just going to leave that one there. All right, we can talk about fiber on another day. Now, I understand fiber adds bulk to your stool. That's all wonderful. So, all right. So remember we said there that, or the one slide said you're not going to get certain nutrients if you're carbohydrate deficient. One of them was vitamin E. Because wheat germ, which comes from wheat, is very high in vitamin E. I do agree. But there are other sources to get vitamin E. And there's a couple of them right there. Seafood. So trout, crab, shrimp, there's chicken, salmon, bacon, you name it. There are places other than wheat, where you can get vitamin E. Plus, we have our Neolife vitamin E, which comes from wheat, but it doesn't have all the carbohydrates that come with it. It's just the oil, the oil that comes out of there. All right, so there are places to get vitamin E if you give up on wheat, for example. Okay. Eggs. I love eggs. And here's why. If you think about it, everything that's inside that one egg, you have everything you need to make a whole chicken out of that egg.
I like that slide.
All right. So it's packed full of goodness. So some of the things that they mentioned, if you are carbohydrate deficient, you're going to be deficient in vitamin B. They said B12, vitamin D, vitamin E, all of those. But if you take an egg, yeah, this is an example. 2 eggs a day will give you 82% of your vitamin D daily requirement. 82% out of 2 eggs. All right. And we've been told don't eat eggs because they got cholesterol in them. Well, I'm saying eat eggs because they've got cholesterol in them. You want the cholesterol. Your body needs the cholesterol. Your brain needs the cholesterol. All right. 2 eggs are going to give you 15% of your vitamin B12 required daily intake. So the people that are vegetarians, if they can just eat eggs, they're going to be okay. Choline, which is like vitamin B4, 77% of the women's and 59% of the men's daily intake. You're going to get iron. You're going to get your vitamin B2, vitamin A, B5, vitamin E. There, 2 eggs give you 20% of your daily intake of E, just from 2 eggs. So you got a choice. You can eat 2 slices of bread or you can eat 2 eggs. All right. Bread isn't the only place to get vitamin E. Vitamin B9, 49% of your daily intake will come from 2 eggs of vitamin B9. And then iodine, again, 29% of it. All of this just from 2 eggs. So there are places to get your nutrients besides carbohydrates. All right. So I think this is the final slide, and then I'm just going to come back and be face to face with you guys. So there's no requirement for dietary glucose. None. And I'll explain all this. Fatty acids can be turned into ketone bodies, and amino acids can be turned into glucose. And there's a process called gluconeogenesis, and we'll go through that. And then finally, the final highlight there, exogenous glucose, in other words, added sugars, is not essential for sustaining life in humans. You do not have to get exogenous, and they're saying an example from added sugars. And I hate it when they do things like that, because we then think of they're taking sugar and adding it to this food. All right. It's not necessarily just from added sugars. Exogenous means it's not inside your body, it's outside your body, you have to put it in. So in other words, glucose that is outside of your body is not essential for sustaining life in humans. You don't have to eat the glucose that's on the shelf in the store. All right. And in most people, restricting dietary carbohydrates seems to produce no ill effects. I like that. I like that a lot. That's right. Let's get back to some real people here. All right. So let me summarize and put that into layman's terms, if you will. All right. 3 macronutrients: proteins, carbs, and fats. We have to eat protein. We have to eat fat. We never have to eat carbohydrates again. Now, you're going to read some articles. If you go out there and you start doing some research and reading around, you're going to come across things that say, oh, but carbohydrates, glucose, fuels the brain. Now, it's not 100% true, but it's also not 100% false. There is some truth in that. Now, there's a part of your brain, it's called the amygdala. Come on, you smart people, help me if that's the right word. There's two little parts of your brain that kind of sit smack dab in the center of it, down towards the base. And those parts of your brain are responsible for memory. All right, photographic memory, recall, all that kind of stuff. That part of your brain needs glucose. The rest of your brain can run on ketones. So yes, you do need glucose in your system. But here's the thing. Your body has the ability to make glucose inside of your body. You don't have to go and eat it. You don't have to go and eat a teaspoon of sugar to get your glucose. Your body, if it sees, I need a bit of glucose, it turns on the switch in the factory and it says, make glucose, but I only need this much, all right? I just need like 10 milliliters, 2 teaspoons full. Just make enough. And then when you're done, shut down the factory again. So that process, that gluconeogenesis is what it's called. That process is an on-demand process. It's not a continual 24/7, 365 process. Your body isn't making glucose every single minute of the day, non-stop. It makes it when it needs it, and it makes just as much as what it needs, and then it stops. Okay? That's why glucose is non-essential to human life. Now, if you don't get that part of the brain, the glucose, you're probably just going to lose your memory. But you're still going to be alive, right? Your heart is going to beat. Your muscles are going to work. You're going to have no idea why your heart's beating. But you're not going to be dead, okay? You'll just be clueless. But anyways, so yes, glucose, non-essential to human life, but it is essential for memory. Now, excuse me. Let me just grab a sip of this. My magic muti coffee. There's a lot of issues with Alzheimer's disease these days. People are forgetting things a lot earlier age. And I think it's all, so dementia is called type 3 diabetes, for those that didn't know. So it is a sugar-related problem. Now, that part of the brain, the memory, the recall, all of that, yes, it needs glucose. But because we eat so much of the damn stuff, you now have glucose intolerance. That part of the brain is being fried from all that glucose. And I believe that's why we have so many issues with memory these days. Okay, so your body will make it when it needs it. It'll stop when it doesn't need it. Remember earlier on in the beginning slides, I said all glucose comes from plants. You don't find glucose in cows. You don't in meat, at least. You don't find glucose in fat. You find carbohydrates in plants. Now, am I telling you to never eat any plant material again? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you don't need it as much as what you think you need it. Okay, but you do need to eat the meat. You do need to eat the fat. Now, I had somebody maybe 2 weeks ago said that they had a guy at their house. He was doing a meeting. He was teaching on this, that, and the next thing, and he said, avoid red meat. All right. And she says to me, but that's what we do. We're trying to get our health back together again. And, you know, you've suggested eating a lot more meat in your diet. So who am I supposed to believe? What am I supposed to do? It's like, okay, that is a tricky one. But I will say this. there have been none, zero randomized controlled trials that proves that eating red meat causes heart disease. None, zero, nada. Sweet, blow, nothing. All right. So a lot of that is what they call correlation. Well, the guy ate red meat his entire life and he died of a heart attack. Okay. So what? What else was he eating? What else was he doing? All right. Along with that steak that he ate every day of his life, how many drinks did he have? How many cigarettes did he smoke? You know, how many times did he run across the road and play chicken with the trucks? All right. So there's a lot of correlation, but there's no causation. Nobody up to date has proven without a shadow of a doubt that red meat causes heart disease. Nobody. All right. Not a soul on this planet. Part of the challenge, it's the same with artificial sugars. There's been no tests, no trials with artificial sweeteners to say these things are bad. No human trials, put it that way. Because it's unethical to take 40,000 people and say, yeah, you guys drink this sweetened loaf for the next 10 years and let's see how many of you die or get cancer. But you can't do that. You can't be killing people in your trials, okay? So there's been no human trials on these things. But we have seen, I mean, if you look at what's in those things, yeah, it's suspect, all right? So, is meat bad for you? Absolutely not. Are vegetables bad for you in excess? Yeah, I'm going to say they are, all right? Because they have a lot of
Histamine.
well, I'm going down this road. They have protective ingredients, if you want, agents, compounds in them. I heard a guy once say, you know, if a sheep feels threatened, what does it do? It runs away or fights. It rams itself into you. All right. If your cauliflower in your vegetable patch is feeling threatened, how does it defend itself? Your cauliflower can't run away. All right. So it's got chemical compounds in it to stop predators from eating it. So predators won't eat it, but you and I will eat it. So we just got to be careful. All right. Eat your vegetables. If you love your vegetables, fine, eat them. But don't make it the bulk of your food. All right. And the reason I say that, when you're bored one day and you have nothing to do, just type into Mr. Google there, origin of corn, and look what an original piece of corn looked like back in the day. It is scary. All right. It looks nothing like what we have today. Absolutely at all. In fact, I'm going to see if I can pull it up here real quick. And I say this because our food is not what it used to be. All right, let's see where this is here. Go on, work with me. Go back a page here. Images.
Remove all pinned videos. I'm not sure what to do here. Admit.
All right, let me come back to my meeting. And I just need that picture. Where did it go? Hello.
Tony, I just clicked something that my finger went on. I was trying to admit somebody, and it took you off as the prime video and showing my, I think, okay, stop screen share. Maybe it's screen sharing.
That's a good looking you over there.
All right. Okay. Okay. I think where my finger it was screen share. All right. I was trying to figure out what I just did. Okay. I figured it out. Got it. Now
Okay.
you can screen share.
Okay, so can you see some stuff here on the screen?
Yes, yes. Now you're screen sharing. Yes.
All right. So just, I mean, for example, look up here in the top left.
Wow.
That's what corn used to look like. And then over the years, it became what we now know it as. You know, when I was a kid, that corn that I ate kind of looked like this one here. Everything, you know, those rows weren't perfect. But have you seen today's corn? Man, it looks like some of these people, yeah, their dental work. Everything's perfectly aligned. They're perfectly straight. Everything's lined up nice and easy.
Dental work.
All right. Perfect little corn. But this is what it looked like back in the day. So the reason I say be careful when you eat your vegetables is for that reason. Okay. The food we have today has been modified to such a degree that it's not like it was many, many years ago. Okay. So just be careful. Like I say, if you really, really like your vegetables, have some in moderation. The bulk of your food should be meats and fats because you need those. The fat, the cholesterol part of the fat is important for vitamin D, manufacturing vitamin D. Cholesterol plus, excuse me, cholesterol plus sunshine makes vitamin D. Your cholesterol, the structure of cholesterol is almost identical to the structure of hormones in your body. And there's about 600 hormones. You need the cholesterol to make all the different hormones. So if you don't get your bacon and eggs, your hormones aren't going to work like they should. All right? You're going to be depressed, miserable, life is not good. And I can understand that. If you don't get to eat bacon and eggs, I can understand you getting depressed. All right? I would as well. So you got to get the fats in your diet. It's good for the brain, good for everything. All right? And you got to get the proteins to build everything about you. And that's why it's a challenge for me. One of my daughter's friends has been vegetarian / vegan for 6 or 7 years now. And she's not looking good. She's not looking good. She's pale, patchy, bleak. And you know, we've tried to speak to her. My daughter's tried to speak to her, but it's just not good. And I don't know where this poor child is going to land up one day, you know, in terms of her health. You got to get those nutrients in you that come from meat. You just have to. All right. I don't know how far back life goes. You know, you can do the 6,000 year version or the 600 million year version. My point is this: way back when, way back, before we got smart, before we had machines that could process food, way back, how did people eat? All right, I take biblical times. You know, those guys, they were nomads. They roamed around the desert and they had their flock of sheep and goats that came with them. They didn't settle down long enough anyway to plant a crop of corn or wheat. They drank the sheep's milk and they ate the sheep.
Yeah.
They made butter out of the sheep's milk or the goat's milk, whatever, and you know, that sort of thing. And they seem to be pretty okay. Methuselah, how old was Methuselah? Come on, Bible quiz time. Who knows? Somebody?
900 and something, like 970 something.
You close, Levon. 969.
69. Yeah.
Imagine living that long. Holy cow.
And then the end.
Oh boy. I saw something today where I saw something today. It was just a little video clip of this couple that were in court. And the judge, they're elderly. The judge says, how long are you married? She says, we've been happily married for 43 years. Haven't we, Ron? He says, yes, dear. So So the judge says, when people ask him that, he says, I was happily married for 5 years. They said, oh, is this your second wife? Because he's an elderly guy. This is your second wife. No, first wife. We've been married for 45 years, but I was happily married for 5. I'm just thinking of Methuselah, 969 years. And you had to be happily married for 900 of those. You got to make sure you pick your wife perfectly back then. Oh, man. So my point is this. Can we live without vegetables? Yep. Do I still take my supplements? 100% I do. Yes. Okay. I do believe the nutrients that come out of some of our foods, the nutrients are good for us. It's the actual plant that is causing the challenge with a lot of things these days, whether it be allergies, whether it be cancer because of all the crap that's on the plants. All right. Dementia problems because we're just having too much of a carbohydrate. Diabetes problems, overweight problems, all of that is carbohydrate related, all of it. Now, I think I've spoken to some of you folks, and I've told the story. I watched a video the other day of a guy that had a 4-inch tumor in his colon. And so he did a lot of research. And at the end of the day, he decided he's going to do a 21-day fast. And he did a 21-day water fast. That's it. Nothing went into his body for 21 days except water. He lost about 40 pounds in 3 weeks. But that 4-inch tumor, after 3 weeks, he went for a scan again. After 3 weeks of being on that fast, the tumor had spread from 4 inches down to 2. It shrunk, at least not spread. It shrunk from 4 inches down to 2 inches. And I think it was like 3 months later, it was gone. And so this guy asked him, so what did you eat? He said, after the 21 days, I introduced some green juice. And then I try to eat some foods, different types of foods. But he says, a lot of that food just hurt me. He says, the only food that I could eat that did not hurt me was beef. He could eat nothing else but beef. And it didn't hurt him. Anything else that he ate caused a problem. So he eats beef and he managed to get some eggs. He can keep those down. And he makes a green juice every day. So my point is this. I would rather juice the vegetables to get the nutrients out of it and take our Near Life supplements instead of eating the big old salad. All right. That's me. That's my opinion. But you folks feel free to do what works best for you. All right. Nutrients from plants, great. The actual plant, suspect. Beef is good, lamb is good, sheep, goat, duck, chicken, fish, I don't care. If it moves, you can eat it probably. So carbohydrates are a major cause of a lot of problems that we have. So my advice for the last 7 years for everybody that's interested to listen to me is cut your carbohydrates way down, way down. 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates per day. And if you're brave enough and you want to go do carnivore style diet where you have 0 carb intake, go ahead. All right. That's the way I feel. But definitely carbohydrates, not essential, and carbohydrates are causing 90% of our problems. So any questions on carbohydrates? I know some people say brown rice better than white rice. All right. Well, in this colorblind world of ours, take the color away from in front of the word rice. What are you left with?
Rice.
Rice. So whether it's brown or white, it doesn't matter. It's still rice. It's still a carbohydrate. Okay. Same with bread. Is white bread, brown bread better than white bread? Is whole wheat better than bleached white bread? The one's as bad as the other one when it comes to carbohydrates. So, all right. Anybody have any questions? I would love to just throw some answers out there to questions. Make them easy questions, please.
All right, this is Wade. How you doing?
Fantastic, Wade. How are you?
Something about 2 eggs. Do you know?
Say that
any-
again?
What, do you know anybody who's ever put 2 eggs in with a shake, a DO shake?
Raw
No.
egg?
Egg, not
Raw?
raw, or I don't know, I'm just asking. They're so healthy.
Yeah,
Good.
you.
No, I
could,
don't know anybody that's.
But it would be better raw.
I've heard of it a long time ago, raw eggs or soft boiled in with protein.
Exactly,
shake.
soft boiled or raw.
You can eat them raw, I'm
Soft
sure.
boiled Way back.
My dad used to make us like an eggnog type thing. It was an egg and a glass of milk. You'd put a dash of sugar in there and a little bit of a vanilla, and he'd just blend that up and he'd chug it down. Yeah.
What's a soft boil?
Soft boil? Yeah, you just boil the egg for 5 minutes instead of 10.
Yeah,
Got it. Got it.
yeah. That actually, the longer you cook the yellow, the harder it is to digest and assimilate the protein from it. So
Wow.
Yeah.
that's why they go soft boil or raw, because it's in the natural molecular structure. It's the more you put heat to the protein, the more it stretches out, and then you have to digest.
Denatured. Yeah.
Denatures it, yes.
Yeah.
Tony,
So-
Tony, I have a question. I actually have a 2-point question or 2-part question. My first part is I've been reading about the keto diet and so forth. And a lot that I'm reading is they're talking about broth, right? They're talking about chicken leg broth and beef broth. I don't know why they're saying to sip broth. What is it with broth that has to go along with the keto diet, or why is it so wonderful that they highly, highly recommend it? Number one. Number two would be on the keto diet. If you were going to pick 5 or 6 supplements that Neolife provides for us, which 5 or 6 would that be?
Okay, so the broth is very good for the gut. All right, because what you're doing is you're taking the marrow, the bone marrow out of the whatever it is, either the beef or the chicken. All right, so you like we used to do with the chicken, you put it all in a pot of water, bring it to a boil, and then turn the temperature all the way down to the lowest temperature, and just let that do its thing there for like 30 hours. And then you go and crush it all. You can literally crush those chicken bones in your hand. They become a pulp. And that way you're getting all the bone marrow out of there. And the bone marrow is very good.
Wow.
And it's good for the gut. You put a big old blob of butter in there with a dash of salt. Wonderful stuff. It's so good for your intestines, for your gut area.
So you would actually cook the chicken legs, right? For what did you say?
Yeah, so we
Boil it. Go
yeah,
ahead.
but we would roast the chicken, all right, and we'd eat the chicken for dinner, and then all the bones we'd throw in the pot.
And you would cook it for how long, how hot, and then let it roast and let it cool down. For 2 hours.
We bring it to a boil. As soon as it's boiling, you turn the temperature all the way down to the lowest setting. Put a lid on there and just let it sit at that low temperature for like 30 hours.
Wow. Wow.
Because
Okay.
all you're doing is just keeping that hot enough that it's not boiling, because you don't want to destroy the nutrients in there. But it's making it hot enough that the bones become so soft that you can just crush them in your fingers.
Wow. Wow.
And then all the bone marrow comes, and you just pour it through a strainer, and the solid you throw out and the liquid you keep.
Sure. Right.
Yeah, but in that 30 hours, just make sure you got water in there, because a lot of it's going to evaporate. But just keep adding water, and then you can use that as a chicken stock. Like if you want to make a sauce or something, you got a chicken stock right there, or if you cooking up whatever, that's something that needs some liquid in it, you got chicken stock, and you can just drink it as it is with a big old teaspoon of butter in there with a dash of salt. All right. Don't forget the salt, people. All right. Salt is crucial.
Yeah, they say trickle salt in your water. Just take a little bit of salt and trickle it in your water, especially if you're doing the keto diet. That's what I read.
Yeah, because what happens is the insulin that you have in your system, when it goes through the kidneys, the insulin blocks the release of the salt. So now you have a salt buildup when you have the insulin. But as soon as you cut the carbs, the insulin's not there. And now your kidneys are functioning and you're draining. Your body's getting rid of all of this. All right. It wants to keep a healthy balance with the salt and the water. So you got to put salt in your diet. All right. And salt's important. I mean, a good friend of ours, his wife landed up in hospital, actually, no, like a mental asylum, because she didn't have enough salt in her diet, because he had told her, you're eating too much salt, quit salt. For years, he blocked her from eating salt. And she lost it, mentally lost it, landed up in an institution. All right. They didn't know what it was. They eventually figured out that her salt levels were so low. They got her back onto salt. Boom. She's fine. She's out of there. She's back home. She's normal. All right. We have to have salt in our diet. So don't be scared of salt. The only time salt's a problem is when you have high insulin, and you have high insulin because of your carbohydrate intake. So you cut the carbs, insulin comes down, salt not a problem. My daughter, we'll make dinner, we'll put salt, I'll salt the food and everything, we'll put the plate down. The first thing she does, before she picks up her knife and fork, she picks up the salt pot and salts her food. She hasn't even tasted it yet.
Does it have to be table salt, or does it have to be sea salt, or what kind of salt you're talking
Sea salt. Go for sea salt or the Himalayan salt, or what's the other one, Levon? Redmond's.
Redmond.
Yeah, but if you can find just a good quality sea salt with nothing else in it, you're probably going to be good. But Redmond makes a nice salt as well.
Okay.
All right.
And
I see there was a question that popped up here.
yes, I want to say that, David, you can actually pour that bone broth in ice cubes and freeze it, and then pop them out, put them in a Ziploc bag. So when you want, let's say, a cup of bone broth, just pull out 2 ice cubes, let it melt. You can heat it up. If you want to make a sauce or anything like that, you just pop a couple of the cubes out, or put several of them in for your stock for your soups. And the salt, when you're low on sodium, you can actually go into seizures, the brain, because it's the channels to which your body actually receives all your minerals is based on your sodium, and your body can't even receive potassium or other minerals. And another great thing about the bone broth is minerals. So it's good for the gut, and it's high in minerals. So I think what Tony has done a great job in talking about is remembering how are you going to get your concentrated nutrition. And bone broth, when you're in keto, bone broth is great to get your concentrated minerals. And then if you're juicing, that's how you're going to concentrate your other nutrients from your vegetables, apart from the fibers and other things that might be a histamine antagonist in the body. And then the Neolife is going to actually add in those therapeutic concentrated nutrients that the body does desperately needs. So you're not trying to bulk up on vegetables to try to meet the need. You're actually feeding the body that protein and realigning the metabolism. And I think the research has come in over and over again, from brain health to fighting cancer. Your body does better with metabolistic challenges, which is what we're facing. Chronic diseases is metabolism issues. Is keto lifestyle actually does better than even the vegetarian or the other lifestyles. And Michaela does have, are you able to read it, Tony?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then I'll just exit out. Okay,
And then just
good.
on that note, when you're saying, they're finding that keto and health issues are getting better with people that do that. And
Yeah.
I think a large, a very important part of that is when a lot of people start doing a keto diet, they start doing the intermittent fasting. So they're going to go down to 2 meals a day, a 16-hour window or an 18-hour window of not eating. From everything I've learned in the last short time, fasting seems to be the #1 thing that's going to help you heal.
Yeah.
Right? Because the less you eat, the less junk is going into you that can cause problems. and your body gets a time to actually heal. All right. Now, if you can get to 18 hours or more of fasting, that's when a process called autophagy kicks in. And autophagy eats the old dead cells and it recycles them into new proteins. Okay. So if you can get to 18 hours, then that process will kick in. So do you recommend juicing for weight loss with keto carnivore diet? Yes, I do. Because you're getting your nutrients, but you aren't getting all the fibers in it. Okay. Fiber is not everything is made out to be. All right. And again, that 38 grams of fiber for men and 25 for ladies, those numbers, I'm not lying to you, somebody sucked those numbers out of their thumb and said, okay, men need 38 grams and ladies need 25 grams of fiber per day. There were 0 tests and studies done to get to those numbers. None. All right. So, all right. Real world question. What about occasional treats of healthier carbs with no refined sugar? Real world answer, go for it. Okay. Here's my take on this. If you don't have serious health challenges and you're on a serious program to try and fix that health challenge, then fine. If you're just doing this to lose some weight and get, realign everything and get yourself slim down, feel better, look better, do better, and you want to have a keto treat, go to town. I'm fine with that. All right. Just don't make it a lifestyle. Don't have those treats 3 times a day. And again, watch out for some of those keto treats because they got crap in them. Okay. Everybody's on the keto bandwagon these days and everybody's got a product to sell you. All right. But yes, the idea eventually is to get to the point where you have no desire for those treats. All right. And that comes with fasting and staying off those treats for longer, because you don't have that craving for that sweetness anymore. Okay. But and I've got a friend that's going through some stuff right now, and she's being pretty diligent. She's doing 1 meal a day, coming back to the fasting, 1 meal a day. I'll get a text from her. Can I have my upbeat in my fasting window? And I'm like, no, you can't. You can have it in your eating window, but not in your fasting window, right? Because you don't want to break that fast. You don't want to put any sort of a carbohydrate, calorie, any sort of something in there that can stop that autophagy process. All right. But in your eating window, she's doing like a 1 to 2 hour eating window. Go to town, eat what you need to eat. Have your protein shake, have your upbeat, have your dinner, your whatever it is that you're going to be eating on your program, do it within that 1 to 2 hour window. Get it over and done with, and then let your body digest all that food and then let it rest until tomorrow this time again. Okay. So coming back to that question, yep. Can you have a keto ice cream? You can. But if you're on this lady's program, no, I'm sorry, you can't. But again, that's up to you. You got to make that call. How quickly do I want to solve this problem? All right. So yeah, and then trying to heal leaky gut from carb, but also finding balance. Leaky gut is a vitamin D deficiency. So make sure you get your vitamin D, your cholesterol, and your sunshine. All right, vitamin D. And then go back to what David was asking about the bone broth. Bone broth is going to be good for the gut. And staying off carbs for as long as possible. All right. And again, if a person has some issues that need radical treatment, I would even suggest do 2-3 weeks of carnivore diet. Put no carbs in for 2 to 3 weeks. All right. Just eat enough food to keep you alive and keep you full, but keep it basic. Beef, salt, water. Boom. Do that for 2 weeks. All right, see how you feel. Make the adjustment after 2 weeks. I don't know how many of you folks know Dr. Jordan Peterson. He's a psychologist. He's all over the interweb. Him and his daughter have been doing what they call the lion diet. She had some serious autoimmune disorders. She's been doing the lion diet, that she calls it, for 5 years now. And all she eats, beef, salt, water. And she got her dad onto that because he also had some autoimmune problems. And somebody asked him the other day, how's the diet going? He says, I hate it. She says, what don't you like? He says, there's no variety. All I get is beef, salt, water. And he says, I'm sick of it. I don't like it. He says, but I'm going to keep doing it because I'm a different person. I'm healthy. I'm healed. I had those challenges. I had those issues. They're gone. All right. And I think this is where a lot of people, when you look at a diet, I'm going to go on this diet. I'm going to lose 40 pounds. And when the diet's over, I'm going to stop the diet. I'm going to go back to where I was before the diet. Like, anybody home? All right. What you did before the diet got you to the point where you needed the diet. So why go back to doing that? All right. You got to find something that works. And if it's working for you, why do you want to change it? All right. Jordan Peterson, lion diet works for him. He feels great. He hates eating that way, but he knows if he doesn't eat that way, he's got problems. All right. And I think a lot of us, it's like me and my son, Austin. He and I can eat the same food every day for the rest of my life. I'll be fine. The 3 ladies in my house, they need variety. All right. We can't eat a piece of steak 2 days in a row. Sorry, no. All right. There's got to be something else tomorrow. Come on, why complicate things? Why can't we just have my son, every morning of his life, he'll come down, he gets the scale out and he weighs his meat because he needs X amount of protein. He has 6 eggs plus whatever meat is in the fridge from dinner or whatever we've made. He'll weigh out that much meat and he'll have his meat and his 6 eggs. And off he goes to work. And he comes home and he does the same thing again. He eats 18 eggs a day. All right.
Wow.
I tried an all meat diet for a while and I got a vitamin C deficiency. So
Okay.
watch out.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of vitamin C in meat. You will find it in the liver. So you need to have, I think it's 3 ounces of liver twice a week, and you'll get your vitamin C out of that.
Yeah, you have to have organ meats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will find the
is
vitamin
true.
C in the liver.
Well, that's where the supplements will come in, right?
And exactly. All right. So yeah, so you get onto the supplements, you get your vitamin C there. And that's why I still take a bunch of stuff every day, because the quality of our food. And here's another question we deal with quickly. What about intermittent fasting for women? I did that, and notification maybe more fatigue with hormone imbalance. Okay. Hormones rely on fats, cholesterol. So if you're doing intermittent fasting, you've got to make sure when you do have your food in your eating window, make sure you're getting enough fat in your diet. All right. You can't be eating lean meats. You have to get fat. All right. My beautiful bride, we sit down with a nice piece of ribeye steak, and she has one of those blocks of butter. She probably takes about a fifth of that block of butter, cuts off a chunk and puts it on her plate. All right, that's her side. She'll have her steak, and her side is a fifth of a block of butter. All right, you got to get your fats. You have to get your cholesterols in your diet. That's going to help with the hormones and that sort of stuff. Okay. Also meant homemade treats. Oh, homemade treats. If your homemade treats are on the safe side, if you're using sugar alcohols, in other words, things like erythritol,
Xylitol.
yeah, xylitol's got a few gut issues. Some people are sensitive to xylitol.
Stevia,
Yeah, so there are sugars out there you can use. So yeah, use some of those.
I mean,
What's the
Alright,
research,
and-
Tony? What's the research on the keto diet with the blood? Is there any type of research? Like, what does the blood do? I know it has to be in certain windows for certain, like, deficiencies, or it has to be between, I mean, there's so many things with the blood. What happens when you do the keto diet? What happens to your blood?
As far as I know, nothing happens to the blood other than your cholesterol numbers get better.
Okay.
All
I see.
right. Because so here's the thing: when you start eating fewer carbs, your triglycerides come all the way down, because carbohydrates jack up your triglycerides. And when you increase your fat intake, your HDL, the good cholesterol, goes up. All right. So if your triglycerides come down and your HDL goes up, that's a good thing. You want to try and get them to be about the same number. So 90-90. All right. Or it can be 100 versus 80. As long as that ratio is less than 2, you're in good shape. So if your triglycerides are 110, or let's say 120, and your HDL is at 60, that's a 120 divided by 60 is 2. So now you're borderline. So if your HDL numbers drop down to 50, then suddenly it's 120 divided by 50. Now it's 2 point something. So now you're going to the bad side of things. So you want to get your HDL up, and you do that by increasing your fat. And you bring your triglycerides down by cutting out carbohydrates and sugars. Okay. Your LDL, don't worry about that number. Never look at LDL. It doesn't mean anything. All right. In fact, I read something last week that they reckon they're finding research now that the lower your LDL number is, the greater your risk of heart disease. And they've been putting people on statins to lower their LDL. You don't want to lower your LDL, people. All right. It's there for a reason. Forget about it. Right. The only reason there's a drug for LDL is because there's no drug that can change HDL, but there's a drug that can change LDL. So there's a market there. But don't worry about your LDL. Okay. Get your triglycerides down, cut the carbs, get your HDL up, increase your fat, eat more butter, your cholesterol gets better. It sounds counterintuitive, but hey, it's the way it works. All right. And comment, buy and use bone-in meats. They are better than deboned meats. Yeah. I made a huge boo-boo. Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. So you probably all heard I went hunting. I shot myself a 450-pound elk, brought that puppy home, deboned it, cut the thing up. I've actually got like 85 pounds of meat in my kitchen right now, fully spiced, curing overnight. We're making sausage on Saturday. But I had the legs hanging up in the garage. They were just hanging out there. It was cold enough, so I was cutting the meat off that, and the legs were out there for a while. I threw the legs out.
Oh dear.
I forgot to cut them up to get the bone marrow out of it. But anyways, guess I'll just have to get me another elk.
That's just my pet peeve. I think a lot of people buy deboned meat and they don't realize the benefit of cooking the meat with the bone in it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the difference between juicing the veggies and eating them? So juicing them, you're going to get the nutrients and not the fiber. And if you eat them, you get the fiber.
And Tony, most of the histamine problems are in the fiber.
Sorry, you broke up there. Most of the histamine?
Yeah, the histamine triggers is in the fiber part.
Yeah.
Not the juice part, because the fiber protects the juice. So the juice part most likely doesn't have the level of antagonist, self-defense mechanisms in it. It's the fiber that has the self-defense mechanisms.
Yeah. And the fiber essentially is there just for the structure of the plant. Okay.
Right.
And going back to one of the earlier slides this evening, carbohydrates. We all learned in biology back in high school. Who can remember this? That at night, well, not at night, the plants on the planet, they inhale carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
All right. Who remembers that? All right. So the plants suck in the carbon dioxide and they give off oxygen. So if you look at the structure of sugar, it's a combination of carbons, hydrogens, and oxygen. Okay, that's what glucose is. So at night, the plants suck in carbon dioxide, carbon and oxygen, plus they get water, H2O, and then they get sunlight on them, which is the energy, and they make the chlorophyll and the glucose. So you're getting the CO2 plus the H2O plus the energy from the sun combined gives you that CHO combination of glucose. That's how plants make the glucose. Now they store that glucose, like in the case of beets and potatoes, those leaves make all that glucose and they store it underground in the bulb, the root bulb system of that plant. And that's what I've been telling folks for years, eat vegetables that grow above the ground, not below the ground, because below the ground, you've got a ball of glucose just sitting there. And all it's doing is just feeding the leaves of the plant. All right. You're better off eating the leaves of the beet instead of the beet in terms of carbohydrates. Okay. So, all right. What else we got?
Wow.
These have been awesome discussions. You guys are smart. You got some good questions.
Absolutely.
Carrot juice has been effective against cancer, it's been claimed. Talking about juicing,
So the line broke up at the beginning of that
He-
discussion.
Okay, John said carrot juice is great against cancer. And I have a little snippet to say about that, but it is high in glycemic, it's high in sugars. And so it can actually do a little reversal on you. You got to really watch it and mix it with other dark greens and other vegetables, not just carrot. And they've learned since then that mixing them, not having so much carrot, but more on the line of your dark greens and your celery and things like that actually yield more nutrition and doesn't spike the blood sugar. But the problem with carrot juice is it spikes the blood sugar. And I'm a testimony of that because I did carrot juice for over a year and nearly died because it was wackadoodling my blood sugar so bad. And but I was following the program and doing exactly what I was told to do. Thank God, hallelujah, hallelujah. And so when I realized, oh my goodness, it's the sugar content that's in this carrot juice that's causing my metabolism. It's just flooding my body with all this insulin stuff, glucose, causing insulin reactions. And anyhow, I had to stop.
So talking about glucose and carrot juice and cancer, I'm sure a lot of you have seen or know people that have been for cancer screenings, okay? And the way they do that, they make them drink this stuff and they take an x-ray and, they light up like the 4th of July and they can pinpoint where the cancer is.
Mhm.
Essentially what's happening there is they're making them drink a glucose mixture and they give it some time and it goes to the body. And the reason that those areas highlight like that is because there's a concentration of glucose there. And the reason there's a concentration of glucose is because the cancer cells need more glucose than a healthy cell. Now, who can remember back in the day, back at school, we learned about aerobic and anaerobic process in the body? Aerobic means you need oxygen for that energy process, okay? Cancer cells don't need oxygen for their energy consumption. They live on an anaerobic cycle, which means because they don't get oxygen, they need a much higher fuel supply. And we're talking up to 400 times higher than a healthy cell. So cancer cells need 400 times more glucose than a healthy cell. And that's why when they do that scan and make you drink that glucose, that's why it highlights like that. And they can see that's where the cancer area is, because there's 400 times the concentration of glucose there compared to just down the road where you got the healthy cells. And something that I've learned recently, glutamine, one of your amino acids. Cancer cells live on glucose and glutamine. So there is a way, and David has helped me figure this thing out or learn more about this. There is a way to block the pathway of glutamine in the bloodstream, because it doesn't help you just do a lot of fasting and you starve the cancer cell, but you're eating a bunch of protein, because the glutamine in there is still going to feed the cancer cells. So there's two ways of doing it. You can just do protein free while you're doing a 6-week program to kill the cancer. But if you insist on eating protein, and I'm not saying don't eat protein, I'm saying eat the protein, but find a way to get rid of the glutamine or block the action of the glutamine. There are a few things on the market, and one of them is just a deworming tablet. Mebendazole is one of them. All right, just go to your doctor, say I've got worms, I need mebendazole. Apparently it's expensive.
No, this is a different formula.
You know, and I think Levon actually put me onto this maybe 2 years ago when she said there's a product that there's a deworming guy. What was the guy's name?
I want to say Tippett or
Tippins, Joe Tippins.
Tippins, Joe Tippins, yes.
Joe Tippins.
Yes.
Yeah. Mebendazole. It's a deworming tablet. Get
Now,
it for
Tony,
you.
when I called Yvette said you can't get that mebendazole in the USA because they jacked the price up so high, but you could walk across the border and get it for dollars, pennies in Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, welcome to the US of A.
So go ahead and share what you're going to share about mebendazole.
So yeah, so fasting, in other words, cutting off the glucose supply,
Yeah.
and then adding things like the mebendazole, and there's some other stuff that I've learned about.
Too much.
That blocks the action of the glutamine. So now you're starving that cancer cell. Essentially, you're starving it. It's gonna die. All right, and if you're doing the 18-hour fasting, those dead cancer cells, your autophagy comes in. It chews up the dead cancer cells, recycles them, makes new protein, voila, and you're building your body again. So, yep. All right, folks, I would love to stay and chat. I've got to get to a 6:30 appointment, which is 25 minutes away.
All right, hold on a second. I want to say thank you for joining us. Get back with the person that shared this information with you, and we'll show you how you can
You sound
continue
like one of those commercials.
amazing health journey.